Welcome, Derek. How you doing?
Hey, Mark, I'm great. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to bring people some new stuff that they probably haven't heard of before, and really be of value. So, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series. I think people will probably get a sense that you are a leader who cares based on what you do and what you've done and what you're going to keep doing. So, how about if we start with just getting to know you a little bit, who you are, not your position or job or anything first, but who you are, where you're from, where you're living now,
Yeah.
family, maybe something you've never told anybody else ever that you want to reveal now in this thing and stuff like that. So go for it.
Okay. Sounds good. Derek Lundsten. I am originally from northern New Jersey, and now live outside of Phoenix, Arizona, a little town. Well, it's a large town, the largest town in the country, called Gilbert, Arizona, with my wife. It'll be 8 years in August, excuse me. And I've got three children: a 5-year-old daughter, 3-year-old son, and a 1-year-old son. So we've been out here enjoying the winter in the desert. It's much better than being on the East Coast. We were living in Pennsylvania prior, so the winters are definitely a welcome change of pace. Yeah, ultimately, I am an entrepreneur focused on building businesses that affect people and their families in a positive way, and give people the opportunity to excel in their life and in their work and in whatever is important to them. And that's been my pursuit of. I joke that I'm a philosopher first and a businessman second. So I started studying and searching for answers around the meaning of life and my life at a very young age. And business has become a platform by which I feel like I can affect more people in a positive manner. But at the core, I also prioritize setting a good example in my home and my family, and on the beginning stages still of what that looks like as a dad. So yeah.
Well, you got 2 years between each kid. Is that it, or we got more to come?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I never know. But yeah, it's definitely tight. Three kids under five, and it's a fun time.
Yeah, my two youngest are 17 months apart, and it was great having them that close because they're best
Yeah.
friends and
Yeah.
get a lot of it done at the same time,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, good for you. So what were you like as a kid then, or a teenager? Did you like play video games? Were you a big reader with the philosophy stuff? Did you do puzzles? Were you into sports? What was going
Yeah,
on?
I wouldn't say I was necessarily a big reader at that point. That came later on. In fact, I was a very active kid. I was actually a very talented musician as well. I played the trumpet for quite some time.
Cool.
But I also played sports, and so I was active in sports and that. And then, say in high school, I got a little bit rebellious too. So I had a little bit of that, just kind of get in a little trouble here and there. But overall, I think I was pursuing something bigger, something like really always curious, I would say, and always interested in people, and always interested in big possibilities, for like a better term. That's something that always drove me. That there was a big world out there, and it was meant to be explored, and that was something that drew me from a pretty young age. So
So were you what your T-shirt says as a kid?
yeah, for sure. I mean, the series of Rebels with a Heart, definitely resonates with me personally, and also is something that I think we stand for and what we're building. And the concept of leaders who care definitely is a term and a phrase that's near and dear to what we're doing in my heart. And I've talked about this, Mark, that the concept of building cultures of caring within organizations and within the context of business is something that we're doing, and that I think is possible both in the business context, but also in the context of human beings, and in particularly in an interconnected information accelerant world that we live in. Caring is something that is going to bring the best of humanity forward, and maintain and help us to keep thriving as a species. So
Yeah, here, and I second the motion and everything else after that. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, you started in biz dev, uh,
yeah.
training and technology, tech solutions, multiple companies and entrepreneurships. Though I found that there's a clear thread around using tech to make a difference for business and
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's back to that point. I mean, I was just talking about this with another friend the other day. I mean, I am not a student of technology. I'm not a technologist by education. Um, but I do have an ability to translate technical and complex ideas and things that require expertise into, I have an ability to understand and translate that into um, language and concepts that the average person can understand. And so I've been fortunate to work with different entrepreneurs along the way and other business leaders and been able to be around people who are way smarter and more educated than I am. But I'm able to kind of translate that expertise into something that's relevant to people's day-to-day lives. And I think back to that where we started, Mark, around focusing on what people need or what people want or what motivates or what inspires or what drives people to certain decisions is something that I do have a strong inherent understanding of, as well as have studied, and then being able to marry that up with just my ability to move quickly and my curiosity has been helpful to kind of bring this thread of technology together. And then made a point to study, what is coming next. I do see things kind of out in the future, and that ability to bring that into reality to the present is something that I consistently, I think, am getting better at. So, and making it real. So
Yeah, it's pretty interesting bringing tech and people together, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But when we founded Fifth Element, it was on the basis that leaders and their businesses can do way better when they're doing good. With your perspective, what you've done, you've been a leader in creating a culture of growth in businesses, where you serve, and this is something that's happened in the last several years, all stakeholders, not just the shareholder stakeholders. Describe what it's been like for you. You started on that, working with technology and SaaS companies, specifically like a company like Scrimmage, and even others if you want to give examples, but specifically Scrimmage, how that looked.
Yeah, so I mean, with Scrimmage, it was so there were two parts, and one on the all stakeholder based driver that goes back to my, I'd say, more philosophical and spiritual lens on life, and just the idea that there's ways to give more people greater opportunities and to empower them. And education is an area, healthcare is an education. Like, there's certain categories where you have the ability to influence a lot of people in that area, and so that's kind of where education came into play. And what I saw, for whatever reason, was with Scrimmage in particular, was the idea that phones, tablets were a fairly new concept in terms of how people were consuming information. And I just recognized, for whatever reason, that was a platform and a way to distribute information quickly, and would become the de facto place that people could learn beyond just being in a school environment. That would be a way to deliver information, particularly around education. And so Scrimmage was built on the concept that you could build micro courses, you could deliver micro content, you could gamify the experience, you could make it, the same experiences that drive consumer behaviors could be applied to educational framework. And we built a platform for that, and we sold that as a product to organizations that had the need to distribute information and changes information quickly. And then through building that, it further gave me insight into the world of capital and how capital flows and who the stakeholders are and what matters, and the different motivations behind that, and to be continually in the room with other people that had fortunately had tremendous success financially, and also recognized that they wanted to do impactful things with their wealth and with their resources, and had a desire to mobilize that. And so for whatever reason, that intuitively or inherently has been with me for most of my life. And then I've been able to be in situations that I feel like life has kind of met me there to help to be a contributor to that work. And I feel like we're still in the early stages of that, bluntly, right? So
yeah, it makes total sense. What they say, the fourth industrial revolution is really about tech, tech and AI and open AI now and all sorts of things. But the fifth industrial revolution is really about humanity. And it's partly where we are actually get the name of our company. Fifth Element is one of the reasons. And that we focus on an intersection of impact and talent all the time, how those come together to have sustainable results, not just individual results type of thing, which includes partnerships and so on. So leaning into that, tell us about the opportunity that you've got with Life Guides, and why it is, quoting you guys, a transformative platform for conscious leaders and values-driven cultures.
Yeah. Yeah, so that to your question, that Life Guides was the evolution of Scrimmage. So if Scrimmage was focused on helping people to learn in the context of their work, Life Guides was there to help people learn in the context of their life. And the idea was, how can we use technology to connect people, right, who have been through a particular life experience, a life event, or a life challenge, and are now on the other side of that, to be quote unquote guides for people who are going through that same experience, event, or challenge themselves, right? So at a core level, the human connection, the relational, emotional ability to meet someone and to create a space for them to share and to learn from each other is a very human essence, in my opinion. And the concept that we saw was, hey, using a technology platform, using data and the ability to quickly process data and where it's going with artificial intelligence, or in the context of what we call in RIP intelligence assistance, right? So using that data to augment human emotive capabilities and thinking capabilities, that's what it looks like. And so we're seeing, kind of, I love this picture. There's a picture we have that talks about literally human beings living in tribal times, right? And everyone had their different roles. There were hunters, and there were fishers, and there were carvers, and there were builders, and there were, all those, there were elders, right? And now we live in a tribe of 8 billion people, right, and around the world. And the internet is the commonality of that tribe, for lack of a better term. But we all have our own unique experiences, our own backgrounds, our own skills. And so is there a way using the internet to bring that together in a meaningful relational way? And that was the core concept of Life Guides. And there's the last couple of years especially have shown the importance of that when you look at how we respond to unexpected challenges, as well as just all different things that are inevitably in our lives, becoming parents, becoming caregivers, going through that process of self-growth and personal development, to losing loved ones, to unexpected life circumstances. All of those benefits have the benefit of having someone who's already been through it to be a guide or a mentor, and we're just creating a platform that take place. So
yeah, I there's so many different ways I can go with that. And I love the, we talk about leaders who care as having responsibilities also for the well-being of their talent, and that includes financial, physical, and mental well-being. And one of the things I really appreciate, obviously, is that whether it's a disease or a situation, or you're playing sports or whatnot, it's always good to have someone that's been there to be able to connect with you and the other person. With respect to well-being, like in a company, when you're offering this in a company, well-being and especially mental health has always been a thing to hide. Sometimes because it's written in a HR thing, and it ends up biting you in the whatever later, because it's in there and it's just a stigma to talk about. How do you get, and obviously right now there's a lot more interest in being open and whatnot, but how do you get someone like Joe, who's got whatever, I don't want to say strep throat, but he's gone through some stuff, to be connected to someone else, and if he's worried about people finding out, or to get him to feel included, that it's okay to talk about it and actually better to talk about, how does that happen?
Well, so on a simple level, that is a key construct of why we started Life Guides, right? This idea of peer to peer, or human to human relational support. So as opposed to going to see necessarily a therapist or a practitioner that has a clinical lens or a professional lens, the idea is that you're going onto our software and you're connecting with someone who's personally lived that experience. And so there's a natural level of trust, of rapport, of acceptance, of understanding that takes place there, that makes it, even though it's no less safe or more safe than the other, it feels though there's a natural, there's a connection there, right? And in the lens of, hey, you're just talking to someone else who's been there. There's no dogma, there's no judgment, there's no stigma. It's just another human being, but they have personally experienced the questions, the challenges, the emotions, the concerns that you're probably experiencing. And so that's fundamentally the core experience. And then on the corporate side, it's the same thing. As a people manager, for example, you want to do right by the people that you serve, but you may not have personal experience in what they're going through. You may not have lost a loved one. You may not have gone through a divorce. You may not have a sick child, but someone in the Life Guides network has had those things happen. And so the next best thing you can do is say, listen, I obviously want to help you. I don't know specifically how to do that, but I do know we have this resource that is made up of people that do exactly this. And I personally have used this because there's other things in my life, and so why don't you try it out too? Because it's a great product, and it ultimately is just talking to other people, and we're just creating a framework for that. And then depending on where that goes, all sorts of other possibilities open up to make sure that people get the appropriate care that they need in that more traditional sense. Right?
And not just, I guess, ask an obvious question. This is connecting with people that are generally probably outside the company, although they could be inside the company, I guess, but outside the company, and it's private and et cetera, right?
That's exactly right, Mark. Yeah, and within our framework guides, as we call them, they sign codes of conduct and confidentiality agreements. So that's all part of that as well, beyond the fact that there's just a natural relational trust that's there.
I would think that for the person that's helping the person, it's like pay it back, but it's also well-being in their own right.
Without question, it is definitely a huge motivator for people to be a guide, to share their story, to share their experiences. It actually adds greater meaning or purpose to something that someone may have experienced in their life, helps them to refine that and to share that in a way that is helpful to both parties, depending on, because to your point, there's a mutuality there. There's a reciprocity that takes place on both sides in doing that work. So.
In the work that we do, working with leaders who care about the well-being of their talent, we've also found out I guess a couple of things. Creating an awareness around people that you may not know what's going on with that person today, or what they woke up to, or what's happening 5 days ago or whatnot, and not be so judgmental maybe on a quick reply or something that's going on, but maybe count to 10 and just say, are you okay? Can I help you in any way? Or something simple like that. It's not specifically related to what we're talking about, but in a way it's almost directly related to what we're talking about, about being kind to people and aware that this stuff's going on and helping.
Yes, I completely agree with what you just said. I have nothing else to add to that statement. So.
Oh, cool. I'll trademark it. The other thing I wanted to say about it is that we certainly have found in the work we do in helping clients attract the best people is we're able to get the best people because their leaders do care. So, for example, if you have a program like Life Guides in a company, I would think, and I find this more with the women, minorities, whatnot, asking the question, what type of programs do you have that are inclusive, that care about my well-being, and that helps attract and keep the best people? So I'm sure you've seen that too.
We have seen that, and that's, our hope and our desire is that becomes a de facto standard, that this is offered by any company. This is kind of the stamp, if you will. It says, yeah, of course we offer Life Guides. It's the opening path to all the other services and resources that our company has, because it's a human relationship with understanding, and then we can tie that in together with everything else that's offered. Right?
Is there what's the breadth of topics, or if you will?
It's reflective of all topics. So literally, if you can imagine it, it's probably in there. So, but it's everything from overall stress and considerations therein, to relationships, to parenting, to work, to identity, to community, to health issues, to caregiving, to veteran support, to injuries. You name it, it's in there. It's just. And it's positive things too. I just want to have an accountability buddy for my fitness, or I want to just check in on what's on my mind every week, or hey, I want to get perspective on my kids are going off to college, and what does that process look like, or I just became a parent and I'm trying to balance the demands of my career now with what that is. And so it's all different aspects of life. It's not just when things are wrong. It could be things are very much going well, but there's another level of growth, another level of expansion, another perspective that helps people, right?
No, I think that's amazing, because some people might think initially, well, I have to have a disease or something to talk to someone who's had it, but it could be a lot more than that. And is there any specific commitment that the guide has to have for a certain amount of time, or is it totally open forever, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we manage that through our quality control process. But yeah, when we bring people on, there's a certain level of kind of where we manage their baseline kind of initial contribution. But I mean, it's not time intensive, and the guide sets their availability broadly on how much time they want to put into it. But I mean, there's some basic level of just checking in to make sure that they're active, for lack of a better term. But outside of that, they're autonomous to determine when they want to contribute and when they're available and how that works. So.
This is gonna sound like maybe a crazy question, but are there cases where it's mental health, and in some states and laws, if some, well, maybe it's just to psychologists, if they know someone's in big trouble and they're going to hurt
Yeah.
themselves or someone else, are there cases like that?
We have developed training under the leadership of credentialed counselors and physicians and others to help identify certain patterns or issues like that. And then we've developed referral and escalation procedures for those situations. So yeah, we have had a few incidents, fortunately very minimally, but we've been able to really come to people's aid in that way.
So some of my friends say I'm mentally challenged. Who do I call?
I don't know, Mark. We're just getting to know each other, but I'm sure if we have a couple more conversations, I'll have an idea.
Okay, it's always good to have connections when you need them. So one of my clients said something cool. I always remembered it. He said it in 2021, and he was talking about 2020. He said, Mark, the year 2020, it's a year that flew by slowly. Yes. And I thought that was such a crazy line.
I mean, it kind of feels like that's been the last 3 years.
Exactly.
2021, 2022. I feel that about the last 3 years. So
it's yeah, because people say, man, it feels like I was just locked down in COVID like yesterday and years ago, all at the same time and whatnot. And with all that, can you share with us what you're with all that's happened the last 2 years, what you're most grateful for, and also what you're most hopeful for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful question. So I'm most grateful for the fact that that period of time allowed me personally to focus, really be present with my family. We were in a new city. I have young children. We had another child during that time, and I was not traveling. And I went from building my last business to traveling a lot to being, and part of the desire with being here at Life Guides in Phoenix was to travel less. And I went down to essentially zero travel, right, for almost 2 years. And so I was able to be here during a really formative time in my kids' lives and be able to really invest in my relationship, my marriage, and just really create a foundation in that way, and to still contribute and build at a really high level while being physically and emotionally present in a different type of way. So I'm really grateful for that personally, but also for my family. I think that that's going to really lend itself to my children's future, especially. And I am hopeful that that many other people have had that similar experience over the last few years to really evaluate with some intention why we do what we do, what's important, how do we bring some of the positive things to that experience forward, how do we change some things that maybe were not working so well and redefine things, how do we use this as a real opportunity to learn and galvanize and to create things better, create things new, and foster a better future. And I think that going back to where you started, I mean, we're about to go through, I believe, a quantum shift with the role that data plays and the role that internet connection plays, and things are about to accelerate a lot. And that pause, back a better term, was, I think, important to help really ground people and give kind of a moment to reflect and look back, because I think that's ultimately what, in my opinion, that's why that speed and that slowness is there, because it allows us to look back in a very clear, fashion and say 2020, that's an anchor point, and it kind of helps us to refine and define what is going on in the world. And it's really fascinating how that's working in society, I believe. So
yeah, it is. I think we did learn a lot, including that you can be serious about things, but not take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
And things like that. And if a dog walks into the room or a kid, you don't have to get all nervous. I'm on a video. Welcome to what really is important and all. And I hope we learn from a lot of that. And I think we will. I also think you're right. It's the world's gone super fast in the last 50 years with technology, and it's going to be on steroids the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And so so hold on to your hat, or as Kramer says on Seinfeld, giddy up, I guess, is the way to go. Hey, this is it's great stuff what you're doing. Thanks for being a leader who does care about what's going on out there, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Mark, for the opportunity. Really fun conversating with you, and appreciate the opportunity.
You bet.